Wednesday. Eat well, think well, move well, sleep well. Wellness Wednesday.
Hey everybody, Dr. Anissa Shomo here, everyone's favorite family medicine physician, and also the owner of Health is Love and Dr. Shomo Knows. Today we are going to be in our Health is Love space because that's where I've been for a while, and let's get to it. So one of the biggest things I do in Health is Love is I talk to people about trauma-informed care and just kind of working on their health from that kind of aspect. And so that's really what my book, Health is Love, is about. It's about half of the book is about the idea of trauma-informed care, and the other half of the book is about something we call motivational interviewing in primary care. So basically trying to figure out, yeah, you want to change your health and you want to have better health, but what's holding you back? What traumas are holding you back? What stressors are holding you back? And so in that way, I often say that I am a glorified grief counselor. I get paid really well to do grief counseling, as a way to kind of help people move past some of their traumas and heal their bodies and heal their mind and their body. So I call it a lot of mind and body work is really what I call it because there's mind work that you can do and there's body work that you can do to help on your healing. So let's get to it. Let's talk more about that. So this talk is called Wellness Wednesday Hacks. Dr. Anissa Shomo. I am an MD. I went to The Ohio State University, College of Medicine, and I also went there for undergrad and I have a BA in Spanish. All right, so this is about the Health is Love brand. So our purpose is to spread awareness about the idea of trauma-informed care. And then also we provide examples of constructive coping skills. So that's what I do on my social media pages. And then also we promote healing through therapeutic conversations. So I do that in my book club where we kind of use books as a way to open up about some of the things that we've experienced that are similar to the authors. And then also I host a bunch of workshops about health and healing. And so our motto is health is all about healing from trauma by coping well. And then another motto is to heal oneself is to love oneself. And our aim is to uplift with love and break trauma cycles. All right, so that is our book that's about that. So what helps people heal? The science says grief counseling is helpful, so that's a lot of what I do as a family medicine physician is, like I said, that mind and body work. So I do a lot of trying to figure out what's going on with people, what kind of grief they're going through, and trying to help them work through it. And then coping skills coaching is also a lot of what I do as a family doctor of trying to figure out how people can cope better with the grief that they're dealing with. A lot of times people may overeat as a way to cope with different pain that they're dealing with in their life. And so I try to figure out how to help them find more joy and purpose that can help them heal from the pain that they're dealing with. And then also another thing that is helpful is having supportive family and friends, having community. So that's part of why I do my workshops and have my book club so that people can build that community. And then all of the wellness activities. So sleep, nutrition, exercise, mindfulness. That's what I talk about all day long in my office. And then of course, professional help. So I'm part of that as a healthcare professional. I help people process their emotions and talk about setting boundaries. And of course, therapists can help with that situation as well. So I refer a lot of people to therapy, but I kind of start the process in my office because there's actually a lot of barriers to therapy. So some people may have better access to family medicine. And so I do what I can to try to play my part in helping with that. And then, of course, we have a book of reflections to help start the process as well. And so the Health is Love book is really about giving people a tool to go home with. So you may only have an hour to spend with me, or, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. But usually if I know somebody, like if somebody's mom just died, I'm going to spend more time with them. Even though they were scheduled for a 20-minute appointment, I'm going to take the time and spend however much time I'm able to help them kind of start working through those emotions. And so then, as you go home and start thinking about other things that may be making it feel heavy, that's what the book is about, trying to figure out why does it feel so heavy? Am I not coping well? Do I need a better community? Do I need to work on my wellness better? So that's kind of what the book is about, is like when you go home, trying to work on processing your emotions at home. And then there are all types of treatments that we can offer. So I refer people to acupuncture a lot. There is also medications that can be helpful. So, we use SSRIs, SNRIs, often for people who may be experiencing what we call like prolonged grief disorder. So I do a lot of prescribing of medications for people who are having a really hard time and feeling really hopeless. So that can be helpful for trying to help people see if they can boost their mood. Of course, we also prescribe a lot of medicines to help people sleep. So when people are going through grief, there can be a really big disruption in their sleep patterns and just anxiety and, what we call adjustment disorder. And so I prescribe a lot of medications that can help with just sleep too, during, a lot of traumatic things that people are going through. I also give people a handout about grounding. So there's a lot of grounding exercises that can help with grounding your mind, like mindfulness exercises, but there's also things that are I call body work. So like placing your hands under water, under cold water can help calm your body down. And so, as we talk about that kind of stuff, like what is the actual process that's happening in your body? So what you need to do is to rewire your nervous system. So we have what's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And so this is the calm before and after the storm. And so this is the mode that your body is supposed to be in when it's recovering, healing from trauma, because life is full of trauma, right? And so what happens to a lot of people is, the sympathetic nervous system is the part of your body that is that fight or flight response. So that is the storm, the trauma. So the sympathetic nervous system is in charge of reacting to the storm and reacting to trauma. And a lot of times it's actually kind of involuntary, like your body just kind of goes into that mode. And so what happens to a lot of people is they get stuck in that sympathetic nervous system mode where they can't calm down, they can't sleep, they can't eat, in a calming way and that sort of thing. And they can't practice mindfulness. And so you have to do a lot of mind and body work to get your body out of that sympathetic nervous system place and try to get it back into the parasympathetic nervous system where it's supposed to be so that you can recover and heal because that's why my motto is health is all about healing from trauma by coping well, because a lot of people don't know that. Nobody knows this. Like I didn't know it, even as a physician. So as I started getting more into the work of trauma-informed care, this is a lot of the things that I learned because I had to learn it for myself because I've been through trauma and I've had physical illness that was likely based from that trauma. So we have to learn how to repair our body so that we can live longer. And, so we can live happy, joyful lives. So this is a sympathetic nervous system. So these are common trauma responses, and this is how people feel even when they're not in immediate danger. So this is kind of like PTSD. People experience post-traumatic stress syndrome in different ways. And so some people may be stuck in these trauma responses that their body involuntarily went into, and they don't know how to get themselves out of it. So people experience it differently. Some people may be still in that fight mode. They may feel angry or anxious, not be able to relax. They may feel in that flight mode, like avoiding problems or numbing pain and not really want to deal with trying to feel better. And the other thing is like freeze. Some people feel like frozen. They may feel like stuck in place, like physically like depressed and immobile and just kind of out of it, like in a brain fog. And so some people may not feel that way, naturally, but they may be numbing themselves to feel that way too. So that's why, the heroin epidemic has been really bad because heroin is a way that people numb. And of course, then that just causes this whole cycle of just being stuck in that place. And alcohol is the same way, and marijuana, and all of those depressants, we call them in healthcare. We call a lot of medicines depressants. But also stimulants can be a way to numb pain. So people may use other stuff like cocaine or crack or meth. People do a lot of those kind of things to numb their pain. And then fawn is a very interesting one because a lot of people have never heard of fawn, but a lot of people do that. So the people pleasing. So they prioritize others' needs over theirs as a way to kind of downplay the pain that they're going through because all of these things are working on our brain chemistry. People are trying to feel better. They know they don't feel right and they're trying to feel better, but they don't really know how to feel better, right? And so this is why I always encourage people to get professional help because you may not even realize why you're in this mode or that you're in this mode. I've had people, especially going through menopause and hormonal changes, I've had patients who are just like, I'm just angry all the time, I'm irritable, I'm snapping, my family's telling me I'm mean, so that may be a common way that people may present when they're hormonally just, flipped into this mode. So sometimes it's trauma that flips people into this mode, and sometimes it's hormones that flip people into this mode. But sometimes it's a combination of both. It's often a combination of both. So the biggest thing is recognizing that you might be in this mode of the parasympathetic nervous system or, a trauma response that your body is having to something that's going on in your body. So let's talk about how we work through it. So one of the biggest things I do is try to coach people on having constructive coping skills. So what does that mean? Constructive coping skills, I call them things that help you live longer. And so these are examples like walking, because walking helps you maintain your function, helps your body heal and recover. Laughing, dancing, spending time with loved ones, sleeping, all of these really help your brain chemistry heal, recover, and feel like cared for so that you're in that parasympathetic nervous system. And so that's why they promote healing and they help to maintain function because they're acting on your brain. They're helping build serotonin levels, they're helping with your dopamine levels. All of this brain chemistry that's happening at a cellular level is why we tell people to do all of these kind of things. But people, so this is kind of like the science behind why we tell people to do things like this, right? Um, but what happens often, people who are not working with healthcare professionals will often just be advertised and marketed to. So people will smoke cigarettes, they'll use alcohol, they'll use sugar, salt, because all of this stuff is advertised to them constantly, right? So they may be like, oh, well, I feel like I'm not feeling well, so maybe I should smoke a cigarette because I'm stressed. But all of those destructive coping skills may shorten your life. And they feel like a quick fix, but they generally decrease your ability to function. So like smoking, it causes dysfunction in your lungs and shortens people's lives. Like I have a lot of patients who are addicted to nicotine and smoking, and they have, bad lung disease. They can develop lung cancer, all that sort of stuff. But a lot of people don't really know what else to do, right? That's all they know because, like I said, it's been advertised to them. It's what the people around them have done their whole lives. In their communities, a lot of times people see examples of destructive coping around them. And so, as healthcare professionals, we are constantly in this battle of trying to help people unlearn the stuff that they learn from our culture. And it's a really hard process because it's all people have ever known. And so I spend a lot of time trying to coach people to try different things because you never know what you would like. Um, one of the biggest things that helped me get through a lot of things is like watching comedy shows. I've been watching comedy shows my whole life. My family showed me that example. But some people didn't grow up like that. So I give people different examples of things that I try or other people try. My patients, like I've been practicing for 11 years, so I have a lot of examples of things that work for other people that I may not be may not be interested in. But I have a lot of experience with that, and I have a huge family. So I can give examples to all types of people, and especially men, because I'm not a man, right? So, but I grew up around a lot of men. I grew up with my dad. I grew up with I've had my husband for 22 years. So it's just one of those things of just trying to get people out of that destructive mode into constructive mode so that they can work on living longer and having a more functional life. And really a life that has better happiness, joy, and health. So one of the biggest things that people have to do is break up with the unhealthy habits. So a lot of people you know, understand that many things that are bad for you are addictive. So for me, that's one of the things I do. I'm like, I do a lot of grief counseling, but I also feel like I'm trying to get people to break up with these unhealthy habits and break up with these addictions. And so, you kind of have to quit buying or wean off of sugar, salt, alcohol, cigarettes, whatever it is. Some people even are addicted to sex. So people have to figure out how to work through that. And sometimes, people may find that being on the medications can help them with that. We have a lot of different medicines that can help people with all types of stuff. So we actually have a medicine that helps people not crave alcohol. We have medicines that help people not crave cigarettes. And of course, people know there are medicines that help people not crave sugar and salt. People talk a lot about the GLP-1s, but eventually you kind of have to get to the point of behaviors because it's one thing to have the medicines do part of it. The medicines can't do 100% of it. You kind of have to meet them halfway. So I generally tell people to focus on one unhealthy habit at a time because it's hard to learn the behavioral strategies if you're focusing on a whole bunch of things at once. It takes a lot of time. I say spend 1 month on each goal before adding a new one, and you may even spend a quarter. You may spend a whole year. And one of the ways that I've become healthier over the years is generally since I've been a young girl, since I was about 16, I started working on my healthy habits because I have older parents, and so I started seeing them have health issues. And so as a teenager, I said, well, I know my family has diabetes, so my parents also had a bakery. So I was like, well, I know we have a bakery and there's cake everywhere, but I know it's not good to eat cake every day. So I was like, all right, goal number one, don't eat cake every day. decrease how much cake you're eating because you're surrounded by cake every day, you know? Since I've been a young person, I've been working on a lot of that stuff little by little, but it adds up. It's added up to, I'm 41 right now, so it's added up to 25 years of healthy habits that I've been able to change over the years. And sometimes you fall off the wagon. So that is part of the process of change. So sometimes you might have to circle back to those prior goals when you fall off the wagon. And another big thing is just trying to see if you can replace it with a healthy habit. So I generally tell people to trade alcohol for exercise, trade salty snacks for veggies, trade sweet snacks for fruit. And then a lot of people have found that sometimes trading cigarettes can be helpful. Trading cigarettes for breathing exercise can be helpful. People do all types of stuff. I had a patient one time tell me that working with kinetic sand, because it's something about just having something to do with your hands, or like knitting. So there's all types of examples that I give people of trying to figure out how to work through breaking up with these unhealthy habits. And what's always really funny is would be like, it's like a toxic ex. I do all of this like I'm real extra. I grew up acting, so I have like all of these like scenarios and like all of this like dialogue that I have around it. So I'll be like, it's like a toxic ex. You're not supposed to text them. You're not supposed to like be around them. It might take some time for you to kind of like break the ties, but you got to do it. So it's that same thing with unhealthy habits of like divorce, break up, right? They done busted out your windows on your car and it's time to let it go? So, so however you have to process it and figure out, you have to work on breaking up these unhealthy habits. Because I've seen plenty of people get on GLP-1s and all that sort of stuff, but they haven't done the work to break up with those unhealthy habits, so they still have the same problems, right? And I've seen plenty of people do it without GLP-1s, and once they start working in their trauma-informed care place of just working on how to build that calm in their lives, they are able to do all of this stuff. All right, so one of the things that I talk about in Health is Love is coping and wellness. So, we have our 5 ways that we talk about coping and wellness with the 5 pillars of health. And so we talk about eat well, move well, sleep well, connect well, think well. And so you might need help with all of these. There's specialists for every single one to help you with getting better at any of them if you're having an issue with it. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because I want to get to the next thing, which is, a lot of the advice that I give to people are about these 7 healthy habits to rewire the mind and body. So like I said, I call it mind and body work. So you have to really work on rewiring your nervous system. So one of the biggest things is people have to really figure out how to build a manageable work-life schedule. People try to do way too many things in the same day and overcommit themselves to all types of stuff. So people have to learn how to say no to things and people and stop people pleasing, because that's a big thing. That is a big trauma response of fawn. People do a lot of people pleasing and then they wonder why they're so tired. It's because you overcommitted yourself. So people have to really work on that piece. And then number 2 is trying to figure out if you can have a supportive work and home environment, because that's really draining. If you feel like you have to do everything yourself and nobody's helping you, that is hard. As humans, we are social. We're social, species. And so we don't like to feel like we're alone in doing everything. So trying to figure out if you can have some support at work, some support at home, and figuring out what that looks like for you and how to, just kind of build that community. Because like I said, community is one of the ways that people heal. So, healthy habits, sleeping 7 to 8 hours each night. Try to find you trying to get your room to be quiet, cold, and dark is the general recommendation. So figuring that out. Eating habits, 5 fruits and vegetables every day. Practicing mindful eating is really, great for healing your body. And then physical activity habits. So trying to get in 30 minutes 5 days a week or 60 minutes 3 days a week is the goal. And then limiting screen time outside of work. So a lot of people just scroll, and people are in this day and time with all the chaos that's going on, that just builds anxiety, and it just like plays into your sympathetic nervous system of that fight or flight response. Oh my God, this is happening. Oh my God, that's happening. Unplug. It's really one of those things that a lot of people have to do. And for me, and for everybody has to figure out what that means for them. For me, I only watch my news in the form of, comedy, of satire. So that's what I do to stay informed, but also not be in that, cycle of just people showing you depressing things over and over again without any kind of humorous spin on it. That's how I cope with it, and that's how I deal with it. Other people deal with it different ways. Like my husband, he used to watch the news. He stopped watching the news and he just reads the news. Every morning he will get up and, find the news on the internet and he'll just read through it and be done with it. So there's different ways that people work through trying to be informed about what's going on, but also not being in that cycle of sympathetic nervous system and alerts on your phone and all that kind of stuff. Like, this constant access to the internet is harming us. Okay. So you have to work on setting boundaries around that. And then the last thing is limiting sugar, processed foods, all of that sort of stuff, because all of that causes more chaos in your body and causes more, damage. As we're trying to heal, it's constantly creating more damage in your body. So you want to limit soda, sweets, alcohol, chips, cigarettes, all that kind of stuff. So, limit anything like that, because you just want to get to the point where you're putting good things in your body and trying to avoid the bad things, because it doesn't help your body get into that calm state, the parasympathetic nervous system. So that's all I really have to say about all of that. It's just a brief overview of some of the work that I do. If you're interested in learning more, please email us, visit our website, visit Instagram, TikTok, and I hope that you all enjoyed this presentation. Let me know how you feel about it. I made this for YouTube, so trying to get back in the YouTube space. So thank you so much for your love and support. Thank you for watching this video. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Wellness Wednesday. Eat well, think well, move well, sleep well. Wellness Wednesday.